Hey everybody, it's Kristina of CraftyPaws. I wanted to share with you guys the assembly and coloring, fussy cutting, etc. of a 4x6 card that I am making for judybakes22's birthday challenge giveaway. What she asked us to do was to do a 4x6 card that represented us. So I decided I was going to use some beautiful graphic 45 paper. This is some of my favorites. This one is from the Bohemian Bazaar collection, and this one is from Steampunk Spells. And I put my little sticker there that says handmade with heart by CraftyPaws, and I left the top of it open so that I could tuck in this little tag where I'll put in all the information that Judy asked for. I haven't done it yet, but I put that on a little tag that it basically consists of this beautiful embossed blue paper. Blue is my favorite color. And this was some paper that was gifted to me by Crafty Carolina Gal. And the back of that graphic 45 paper from Bohemian Bazaar has this pattern. This is the side B. And I decided I was going to put a couple rows of this super sparkly glittery gold washi tape for the ground. And I'm going to take this Tiddly Inks image, which I've used before. I colored her with my Copic markers, and I paper pieced her shirt and her little skirt. And you'll see that I cut off the other dog that looks a lot like this dog. This one's supposed to be my Bandito, so I colored him up like Bandito. And this is supposed to be me, obviously. And this is supposed to be Biscuit. And this is a stamped image that I flipped on my computer. I stamped it out, flipped it, made it a little bit bigger. This is from a Penny Black Mimi in Paris stamp set, and I really like how that looks. It looks, I think, a lot like us, although my legs are not that skinny. Wish they were. And then I wanted to put my name, CraftyPaws, on this side of the card. So what I did is I took this little alpha sticker set, and it's kind of on a newsprint pattern, and it's got kind of a type, typewriter type, but kind of messy. This was an awesome gift that was gifted to me by Kimber Creations, who I don't think is on YouTube anymore, and I miss her. She's super sweet and welcomed me into this community about a year ago when I joined. Sent me all these different doggy stickers and things. In any event, I put that on some black cardstock. This is just Basil black cardstock that I had in my scrap box, and I laid it out, and then because the letters are all kind of different shaped, I laid them all out and then just fussy cut around it, leaving a bit of the black border to kind of frame the crafty, because this pattern and the background pattern was kind of fighting, clashing against each other. So I wanted to put that little black frame around it. And then I wanted to repeat this gold glittery feel from the bottom up higher, just for some added consistency. And so I laid 2 rows on a little piece of like printer paper, really thin paper, and then used this Marvi Uchida paw punch and punch through it to get this pattern. This is from Emily Cox. Thank you, Emily. I love this punch. It was a little tricky because there's adhesive all the way through the back of this, so it was hard to get this to punch all the way through, but I managed, and then I cleaned it up a little bit, just fussy cutting a little further with my scissors. And I backed it then with white cardstock, and then again with the little scrap of the black cardstock just to frame out the paw prints. So it's CraftyPaws. And I'm going to attach here the process of my Copic coloring, fussy cutting, and I'll narrate hopefully this all the way through. Thanks for watching, everybody. I start by coloring the white parts of the little dog with W1 and W3. I generally try to use warm colors for living creatures like animals and people. Here I'm using E23 and E25 for the brown parts of the little dog. And you'll see that I have both lids off of the 25, and that sometimes helps me just keep the ink from flowing too quickly and lets me do lighter strokes. Now I've switched out colors for the skin, and this is E50, 51, and 53 for the little girl. And I start with the lightest color and go progressively darker, trying to pick out kind of shaded areas, the back leg, under her hair, under her skirt where there would be shadows. So you see the darker colors coming in there. She starts off looking a little yellow, but that's okay. I'm Asian, so I've got a yellow undertone to my skin. You also see they're trying to blend the darker colors with the lighter. I go back and forth a little bit between the 50 and 51 as well. Here I'm bringing in a little blush color with R11. Next I go on to the hair, and I want to make her have black hair, so I'm using C7 and C9. And I leave a little white area where I think the light might be shining the brightest, kind of at the curve of her head. And then also lower down by the lower part of where I think there might be a curve toward the back of her hair. Here I'm going in from the roots on, and again, trying to keep the strokes very light. And this is with the C9. So here you can see the black coming in a little bit deeper. I don't use a pure black, I don't use 100, because I don't think hair really is that color. And you can see under her face where there'd be the deepest shadows, I go all with that darkest C9. I'm not worried about creating strands there because I think you get the look of the strands from more of the light areas. And you'll see here, I'm trying to color in between her little skinny arm and her dress. And I realize actually later, I don't need to be that neat because I'm going to be paper piecing her t-shirt and her skirt. Then lastly, I'm going to go in there with the blue, which is B02, just to add that kind of, it's not punky, but that sometimes when you have a really white shine, you get that blue color. Here I'm starting to color in the little poodle. And I go through this entire coloring process making the poodle kind of more sorbet color, more kind of cartoony. And I am using E21, E02, which is the darkest, surprisingly, and E11. So you can't judge these colors by the colors on the lids. See, I'm trying to show you that the darkest color is oddly E02. And actually the poodle that I end up using in my little card is the second one that I color. And I did that one off camera. And I used for the one that ends up on my card, just E11 and E21. I leave out the O2 because I don't want it so bright. Here I'm fussy cutting the whole poodle out. And I try to move the paper around and less the scissors up and down, like opening and closing the scissors, because I find that it's easier to fussy cut if I just move the paper and less my scissors. It gives kind of a smoother cut, I feel. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about the next step because I unfortunately did it so askew in front of the camera that I don't show most of it. So here you're just seeing me fussy cut. I could have edited all of this out, but after this, I use my Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen, and I use the SB, which is the kind of tip that is also on the brush side of the Copic marker. It's a very similar tip, and I edge all around this poodle because I don't want the white of the paper showing. See there, I'm showing that. And I started on camera a little bit. You can see me doing it, showing the edge. But I cut most of that out because I was off camera. Here I'm fussy cutting out the paper pieced, the little stamped areas for the girl's skirt. And then that's her t-shirt. And just for keeping things more continuous, the paper that I use for the t-shirt is actually the same Gears paper that I have on the back for the pocket. So I stamped the image, just that t-shirt and skirt area on those two pattern pieces of paper, fussy cut those out. And here I'm adding the shadows where I think it'll be on the edges of the skirt. And I'm using W1 and W3. And there I had a little teeny piece that hadn't come off. That was on the t-shirt. And again, I'm just shading in on the edges where her arm pit would be. That would be a little bit darker. And I'm doing that before I do the edging with the pit marker, because if you do the pit marker before you do the shading, it tends to bleed the black into the pattern paper. So the order of that is very important, shading first and then the edging. I had forgotten to color in the shoes, so here I'm just using the same colors that I used in her hair, C7 and C9. And I leave a little white mark at the top just to be that extra shine at the top of her shoe. And here I am just fussy cutting out the whole image. And I'm trying to be careful around the edge of the dog, but as you see me coming down off the side by her skirt, I'm less careful because I know I'm going to be paper piecing the skirt over top. And I fussy cut all the way around, again, trying to move the paper, not the scissors. And I'm cutting off that dog completely because I'm going to be replacing that with the separate image of the poodle for Biscuit. And here I'm just doing the kind of, edge of the hair. And cutting out that little tiny piece in between. And I'm going to take my X-Acto knife, actually, and cut the space between her two legs. Here you see me doing that. And then there's a little tiny piece by the leash, between the leash and her hair, which I also need to cut out. So I'm doing that right there. And I'll color the leash blue later, just with the same color blue that I colored her hair. Here I'm paper piecing the skirt. And that's just Aileen's tacky glue. And there's the shirt. She's finished, all colored up and paper pieced.